Welcome to all of you. I am John Neal, of one of the philanthropic advisors here at Catholic Charities. We're going to be talking about a lot of things this afternoon, and especially the work that we've been doing over the past few months with COVID-19, but really all of the work that we've been doing around this. And what we plan to do this afternoon is to give you an update of all of the work being done for our community of need, and pretty much thanks to the work that you've done for us and the donations that you've made. You see, we see ourselves as a team completely down here at Catholic Charities, and that team wouldn't be possible without the great support that you provide to us, and we want you to know how much we appreciate that. Our guests today are Kate Krisham. She is also one of our philanthropic advisors down here, who will give you some heartwarming stories and also update you on the new activity that we're experiencing here at Catholic Charities around this around the COVID-19, but also around this safer at home mode that we're in here, which has changed some of the work that we've been doing as well. Also today, we are going to be taking questions from you, and you can ask those questions. If you look over to the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a column, and you can go in. It says make an announcement or publish a question. Simply put your cursor down there at the bottom where it says make an announcement, type your question in, and then to the extent that we have time, once we get closer to the end of the program today, we will try to answer as many questions as we can that you send to us. But before we do too much more, I want to introduce a very special guest that's joined us today. He is a former player and coach for the Denver basketball Nuggets. It's Mr. Bill Hanzlik. Welcome, Bill.
Welcome. It's great. Whoa, look at we got, man, John, this is a pleasure to be here. And I got some good news for everybody out there. Guess what? The Denver Nuggets are going to play basketball in about a month and a half. But you know what's even better than that? The best news is the Denver Catholic Charities has been playing all along. They know how to get it done. They never quit. They never stop. And that's what great teams are made out of. You know, some of the best teams that I were on, my University of Notre Dame team, the 1980 Olympic team, and the Denver Nuggets team, they always started at the top with great leadership. You know, you have a coach. There's coaches down at Denver Catholic Charities at the top of the food chain. Players have their roles in a basketball environment. In roles with Denver Catholic Charities, each person has a role as part of a team, and it's the common goal that makes it a success. And there's some great guys, as I said, that are down there. And as team goes, there's no I in team. Everybody's heard that. It's about getting it done together. And they answer the call of what more can I do? And they find a way. They always find a way. And my good friend and buddy, Darren Walsh, has not a lick of athletic talent in him, maybe a little golf. But I want to introduce you to him. He's over here somewhere, but I'm going to pass it off to him right now.
Thank you, Bill. Hello, everybody. As Bill said, my name is Darren Walsh, the CEO of Catholic Charities. And he mentioned golf, and that's probably my worst sport. So that tells you what my other sports must be like. So, but I want to thank you all for being here. You know, I'm going to kick it off a little bit with a high-level comments. And first and foremost, it's about our mission. And our mission couldn't be truer in today's environment and what we're doing, obviously, to bring the healing ministry of Jesus Christ to the poor and those most in need. And you know, when you think about this pandemic, and you think about the economy and the challenges to most businesses and organizations, it's been very tough. The charities business, we're a counter-cyclical organization. Usually when times are good in the economy, our workload is less. When times are hard in our community, our workload goes up. That's what I mean by counter-cyclical, and we've seen that happen. There's nothing that's been unchanged across our operations. We've had to basically change every process, procedure, our safety protocols. We established a 26-person emergency task force team that met twice a week, and in deciding how we're going to tackle this problem, and what do we need to do to continue to serve those people in need and also keep our people safe at the same time. There was no playbook for this when it evolved, and so we had to create one on our own, and the team really did come together. I want to say the team really feels the support of the community. It's been really great to see the community come together. And first and foremost, the people on this call and our benefactors. The financial support's been amazing from the benefactors, but also the grants that have been available to us, the governmental agencies we had to work with in the Department of Health, companies that have stepped up to supply products as well as food and spaces and all sorts of things that we couldn't even imagine that we were going to need at the beginning of this calendar year, and all of a sudden we did, and folks stepped up in that way. And so that total effort on behalf of the community really bolstered our staff and our employees. It really gave them a sense of comfort knowing that you had their backs, that you were there for them, that you wanted them to succeed and wanted them to be successful and really help serve those in need. I can't tell you what it meant to us to keep going and give us the energy that we needed in order to do what we had to do every day. So right now, as I said, staff morale is extremely positive, and I would also say determined. We're not sure how long this is going to last. We hope it's quick. We hope that it starts dying down and ultimately eliminated. But we're also prepared for it to come back in a big way. We can't close down our operations if it does, but we do have the policies and procedures and safety protocols in place in order to return to that old environment that we were in just a few weeks ago. Volunteers are also starting to return to our organization, which is just wonderful to see. Volunteers have always been at the heart of our operations. Over 3,000 volunteers every year. We can't do it without that team. Not only to provide a lot of important services for us, but they're also a shot of energy, working side by side with our staff, and it's extremely positive to see those volunteers when they show up. The last thing that you're going to talk about, and Kate's going to talk about it later on, is going to be our ministries are starting to reopen all over the place. When we initially went through the heart of the pandemic, our shelters and our food security operations were going on overdrive, and we were increasing our operations and our support. A lot of our other ministries went into virtual mode, and we're seeing those open up on a physical basis right now. And that's what Kate is going to talk about. Kate Grisham is one of our philanthropic advisors. She is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful spirit, and has been a breath of fresh air to work with on our philanthropy team. And with that, Kate, I'm going to pass it off to you, and the ball's in your court now.
Thank you. Nice pass. Thank you for the kind words. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I think if you're tuned in, it means you care, and it means a lot to us that you took the time to connect with us today. Part of what we want to do today is celebrate kind of what Darren was talking about. And we've been successful in meeting the needs of the most vulnerable during a really hard time. And part of that success is our donors. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you to any staff members that are listening. It really is all about the team. Bill talked a little bit about that, and those are kind of two themes we're going to talk about today: the team and also food. Food is just a really big part of what we're able to do right now to serve more people during a vulnerable time. And I think it's important to talk about food because food, like shelter, becomes an entryway for folks to come to Catholic Charities. It might be a simple need at first, but then it becomes about much more. And Catholic Charities is uniquely equipped to work at a much deeper level with folks experiencing trauma. We know, for example, that food insecurity is a really big deal for children. I was talking with a coworker who was with some kids down at Samaritan House on a trip. This was pre-COVID. And she said they kept asking for food. And I said, well, of course they did. I've got 4 kids. That's all they do is ask for food and snacks, and they're bored, right? And she said, well, these kids probably weren't bored. They've experienced hunger on a different level than most kids. So hunger for them is a form of trauma, and it requires trauma-informed care. So here's where that theme of team comes back that Bill was talking about. To be on, the goal of a team, right, is to win games, but anyone who's been on any kind of good team knows that it's everything that comes before that really matters. It's the practices, it's the energy, it's the heart, it's the coach, it's all the players. And so at Catholic Charities, like, what would it mean to win the game? And I think winning the game here at Catholic Charities means breaking a cycle of poverty. It means dealing with trauma in a trauma-informed way. It means maybe dealing with cycles of addiction or generational poverty. So that's the game that we're playing. And it takes a huge team that's really, really, really committed to get that kind of work done. Which is why I want to start with Marcella, the story of Marcella down at Samaritan House. Marcella came to Samaritan House earlier this year. She was homeless with her family. She was pregnant with her fourth child. Her husband had recently been diagnosed with ALS, and COVID was starting. So that's four things that for any one family might be too much to take. And certainly for Marcella, were presenting a lot of challenges. So she came to Samaritan House, and that's kind of where her journey with us started. And I want to just flip this up real quick. It's probably very hard to see, but you can go on our website and check out the wheel. It kind of shows all of our ministries and how vast and deep they are. And Marcella, for example, is affected by several of them, and we'll talk through those a little bit over the next few minutes. But again, she started at Samaritan House. So much of what we do at Catholic Charities has to do with shelter. So you can see up there that things are going well at Samaritan House. We're getting ready to start our second phase of our renovation. Switching over to the women's emergency shelter, that's still down at the Denver, at the Coliseum. And we're hopeful that we can resume operations at Smith Road when it becomes safe to do that. And then moving on to Larimer County and to the Mission, and also Weld County. A lot of folks don't know that Catholic Charities stretches from County Line Road, south of Denver, all the way up to Wyoming, west to the Western Slope. And so our operations are really pretty massive, and the work being done in Larimer and Weld and on the Western Slope are something that we should all be really proud of. Up there, they have expanded and now recently contracted as the need has decreased a little bit. But they just do great work, and they don't just feed and shelter. They have assistants up there. They run groups. They have all kinds of resources for people in Northern Colorado. And we have some really good news out of Weld County. Thanks to the Weld Trust, the Guadalupe Community Center received an amazing hospital to housing grant for its second year. It's worth over $280,000, I think. And essentially what it does is it helps chronically ill homeless folks transition from the hospital to stable housing. So talking to Anita up there, she was sharing with me that what she thinks is so beautiful about it, and I agree, is that, sometimes we look at grants or funding and we want to meet as many needs as possible for as many people as possible. But she pointed out that, this might not meet like a huge number need, but it just shows how much dignity Catholic Charities is able to bring to the lives of every individual. So that just made me really proud. Back to Denver, and more good news from our early childhood education centers. As a parent, I like any news that involves schools opening. So I think that it's really awesome that last week our ECEs opened at about 50% capacity, serving the most vulnerable kiddos first, which is really important. It's important that our ECEs open for a lot of reasons. For one, our ECEs employ over 100 people, which is about a quarter of Catholic Charities' workforce. So we're just delighted to get all those folks back to the work that they were hired to do. They've been doing so many other things, assisting with food and all that. So now they're back with the kids, which is great. And the importance of those Catholic Charities workers' role is enormous. So if you think about how many times folks go to school on a weekly basis, or to the services that the ECE offers, it's about 10 times. Drop off, pick up, 5 times a week. 10 touches that a parent or a caregiver might get with a Catholic Charities employee. And those touches are really important, because those are times when a mom might communicate that her family is verging on homelessness, or that there's a new struggle with addiction or hunger. So it's really great news that the ECEs are up and running again. And our friend Marcella that I mentioned at the beginning, her children will be attending ECEs starting very soon. Moving on to Gabriel House, the Gabriel House Project. I think of the Gabriel House Project as like, when the going gets tough, Gabriel House gets tougher. It's been like this little organization that got kind of shrunk down because of the loss of volunteers. And if you check out those numbers, they have like surpassed normal estimates in terms of the distribution of diapers. And as the largest diaper bank in Colorado, the work is critical, while also adding a food program, the Totes for Hope program that was brought to Gabriel House Project by our board chair, and now is providing families with shelf-stable food. So again, that food theme just kind of keeps coming back. And Marcella was able to get diapers and food at Gabriel House Project herself. So that's a third touch point with Marcella. That's 3 of 3 ministries now that Marcella has been affected by. Moving on to emergency assistance, we know that I think over 475,000 Coloradans have applied for unemployment in the last several months. And of course, we're going to see, I think, an increased need in assistance. I think the number that jumps out to me, if you check out the May 2019 versus May 2020, more than twice the number of households were served. And what that really says to us at Catholic Charities is we kept almost 30 households from becoming homeless. And we know that if we can provide just a small bridge, just a little help to families, 80% of them will be able to make it through and avoid homelessness. So it's well worth the investment. And that's a perfect example of a cost that has risen for us, but that has been covered by increased donations. So keep those donations coming. Moving on to Little Flower. I just want to point out, again, the numbers are big and you can read them right there to the right of the pictures, but the one picture of the table with all the food on it, that is 10 days worth of groceries for a family. And families can come once a month to Little Flower and get that much food. I know that Bill's going to talk a little bit more about Meadow Gold, but it's thanks to donors like Meadow Gold that we're able to increase our offerings to families in this way. It's just amazing. Moving on to Archdiocesan Housing. I think of Archdiocesan Housing as like the sleeper story of Catholic Charities, because not that many people know how many people we serve through this ministry. It's also over 50 years old and was a national model for affordable housing. I think we have over 4,000 residents being served by our affordable housing. I was actually out at one of those sites a couple weeks ago with some Catholic Charities coworkers, and we were delivering these beautiful meals that had been donated. And there were a couple little boys around the same age as my kids running around and just playing. I think one of them had a skateboard or a ball. And it reminded me, first of all, how important it is to have a safe place to live, but also to be able to go outside and to live in a dignified facility that is maintained is really important for families. So we have a huge team that manages those housing units, and they do a wonderful job. Moving on to Marisol Health. These ladies, I don't think anything really stops them. They just kind of keep going and keep doing what they do. Luckily seeing people in person, I believe starting last week. And over at Marisol Homes, they successfully exited 3 families and brought more in last week, I believe. Just a reminder that Sunrise Breakfast, which happens typically in June is a big fundraiser for Marisol, can't happen in person this year. So if you wouldn't mind going online and checking out our virtual event, that would be awesome, especially if Marisol is close to your heart. Moving on to counseling, I wanted to emphasize for counseling something that's not well known by most about our counseling services, which is the home-based counseling. So why do we have home-based counseling? The main reason we have home-based counseling is because the barriers that exist for most families that are struggling to receive counseling are extremely high. Many of them are on Medicaid, and Medicaid is not often received by care providers. If they do take Medicaid, there's often a long wait. And a lot of times, if you can get in to see a therapist or a counselor, there's a rotating door of them, and it's hard to get consistent care, which is a really big problem when you're dealing with trauma. So the home-based team can go into homes and work with folks at Samaritan House, work with folks that we know through our ECEs, and increasingly we'll be working with folks at Marisol Homes and Health as they expand to work with more families. Because back to what we were talking about before with hunger and breaking cycles of poverty and dealing with trauma, it really takes a lot more than just here's food, here's shelter. It takes therapy and it takes really hard work, and that takes money, and that takes a lot of people. Again, to Bill's point about the team, there's a lot of people on the Catholic Charities team that are needed to really win these games for families, and it's so important. And lastly, about counseling, and to bring back Marcella was served through our home-based counseling program at Samaritan House in the early Head Start, the prenatal early Head Start program, and now she is continuing to receive home-based counseling at, drumroll, her home, because she has moved into affordable housing and out of Samaritan House. So I kind of think of Marcella's story as really what it's all about at Catholic Charities, that every human matters, that everybody needs help sometimes. And when people come for one thing, they're going to get a lot more if they're open to it. And that's going to be a really successful way for Catholic Charities to continue to do the work that we do. And finally, just to close on kind of a similar note and send a huge thank you to our Faith in Action team and the success that they had getting Initiative 120 on the ballot. They had almost 5 times the number of signatures needed after kind of being low on signatures, I believe, or they were at 8. They thought they were at 10 and they were at 8, so they had to go out and get a bunch more signatures, and they knocked it out of the park. So congratulations to Deacon Jeff and to Lynn Grandin and to everyone who's worked on that, and to all the volunteers on this call and donors who signed the petition. And finally, in terms of what you can do, please go to our website. You can see our wheel on our website and see how wide and deep all our ministries go. There are so many ways to help as a volunteer with our wish list, and of course, your prayers, and also your donations. We wouldn't be able to do the work that we do without your donations. So thank you. No amount is too small, and no amount is, of course, too big. And now I'm going to pass it back off to Mr. Bill Hanzlik, who I'll probably get to play basketball with for the first and last time. Bill?
We got it. Hey, great job. There's no better way to market what you do than to tell the story. And great job on telling that story of the Catholic Charities team, and all the way to the top of the food chain down to the volunteers that get it done. So I have an interesting story just to tell you a little bit about how things just happen, a little divine intervention. I think it's a God sharing thing, but started to do some work at my foundation with Jeffco Eats. We packed over 1,000 non-perishable food banks every Friday for about the last 11, 12 weeks. But we wanted more. So we said, what more can we do? Well, have a little contact down at Meadow Gold. So we had went down there. Meadow Gold Dairy is absolutely fantastic. They have product that is within a week of an expiration date as a sell date, not a consume date. So on a given Tuesday or Friday, we're down there. We may pick up a variety of things, but it could range from 7,000 eggs to 10,000 units of milk to yogurts, butter, some ice cream. Oh, ice cream. I got an interesting story about that ice cream and our Little Sisters of the Poor. Kate, did you talk about the Little Sisters of the Poor? Guess what? We're going to talk about them now. Where's that video? How many boxes are you doing?
11, 4, 5.
So thrilled that Meadow Gold Dairies and some connections we have through Gold Crown Foundation have some products that are going to expire in the next week or two, and we can get them to needy families within the Denver community. And thanks to our great Meadow Gold guys and Catholic Charities through Mark Hahn, we're going to do that today, and we're real excited to be able to help. And we've got chocolate milks, white milks, yogurts, and eggs of all things. We got a lot of eggs, so we're really thrilled that
we could do this.
You know, we're seeing a huge increase in individuals and families coming to our food banks and needing support and help. And so this immediately goes right into the community to help those families that are struggling and in need. So it's coming at a perfect time. Such a gift, such a blessing. Thank you, Bill Hanzlik. Thank you, Gold Crown Foundation. Thank you, Meadow Gold.
Hey, Mark, I am really pumped. We got the Little Sisters of the Poor covered it. We got some ice cream for them. What do you think? Can you handle it?
Bill, this is Little Sisters of the Poor. This ain't gonna cover it.
Well, what do you got in mind?
I got an idea.
What?
Rod, bring it out.
Metal Gold Dairies. Look, they're coming through for the Little Sisters of the Poor.
Rod's got us covered.
Got us covered, 5 gallon. What do we got about? We got about 100 gallons of ice cream right here. I think this is gonna get it done. You rock.
Hey, this is great. Again, it's so proud for me to work with Catholic Charities. And you talk about what more you can do and find a way. These guys just get it done. And if you're out there and you're a volunteer, yeah, cash donations really, really help. But there's all sorts of things that you can do, whether you're packing bags, whether you're finding a resource, food, material products, things that the staff at Denver Catholic Charities can get to so many organizations. You just can't believe the number of organizations out there. And so there's always a way you can help. And if it's not a financial donation, don't worry. Anything else and just volunteer to help can get it done. I think we should pass this off. Darren, are we doing Q&A now? Yeah, Darren, let's get in here.
I think I'm going to pass it off to John now, because I think John's got something to say for us.
Wait, give me that back. Here.
Go. Oh.
Get it to John.
Well, it did get here. We are back, and yes, as we said, this is, we're going to take some Q&A, and so, we're all going to hang around here for a couple of minutes to try to take as many questions as we can. And so one of the first questions that we have, and again, if you want to ask a question, look to the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see the column there, and you can type in a question. But one of the first questions, it says, does Catholic Charities have an outreach directed to supporting our Catholic schools? I think, Darren, that's probably one for you to answer.
Yeah, I have to get closer to the camera because Bill looks monstrous besides, or I look teeny besides him. So
you're a short guy.
You got to move back. I got to move up. Okay, there you go. Now we're all in proportion there. Super. Yes, Catholic. Yes, we support Catholic schools in multiple ways. Number one, our St. Raphael's Counseling has in-school support to provide therapy and diagnostic evaluations for our children. And they're not in all the Catholic schools. They're in those schools that can't afford it on their own and providing that support. And we have our therapists come in there and provide the programs around psychoeducational assessments, consultations, and the like. So that's number one. Also want to point out, Kate talked about our 6 early childhood education centers. And those centers, there's over 500 kids who go into those centers every year. 30% of those kids are experiencing homeless at any point in time. And another 7 to 8% are in foster care systems. So, so we run those directly as Catholic Charities. And then, of course, we support the school system through our St. Raphael's Counseling Assessment Program. Back to you, John.
Hey, wait, I want to add one more thing while I'm thinking about it. What's really great about our Catholic schools, they're going to open live and in person. Some other school districts may be a little shaky. So if you're thinking about Catholic education, go to Catholic schools. You're going to be live and in person on campus.
Do you ad lib a lot when you're on
Yeah,
TV with
all the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just curious. All right.
it's the way to go.
The next question that we
Back to
have, if there is a resurgence, and I know this is a question that's been on the minds of our staff and people out there in the community as well. If there is a resurgence in the fall, how is Catholic Charities prepared? Darren?
We're better prepared now than we were the first time it happened. We have policies, procedures, communication channels, frameworks, task force, We know where to go to get no additional grant money. Yeah, we're ready. We're ready for a resurgence, and we're ready to. I don't want it, by the way, but I'm just saying if it happens, we're ready. We built the plans; they're repeatable. The biggest risk I would have been concerned about would have been the health and safety of our staff and volunteers, and we've been working really hard on that. We have a very strong program in place right now. So,
okay. Kate, here's one for you. Any volunteer work in Westminster? That's the question being asked by one of our people here.
Thank you for the question. We need volunteers more than ever. I don't have knowledge of the deep needs there, but I can connect the questioner to Mark Hahn, who can certainly figure out anything you might be able to do in Westminster or nearby there for sure.
Next question that we have is, and this goes back probably once again to Darren. You know, the big storm that we had that came through here, I know one house just behind mine had an entire Colorado spruce that was about 50 feet tall fall over on it and do some real damage in that windstorm. Did we experience any problems as a function of that storm to any of our housing or anything that we have in the operations is the question?
Very minimal. Our Cathedral Plaza affordable housing project had some issues there. Trash bins outside had been basically lit on fire. And so there's a little bit of danger to the residents of that particular community, and we had them stay inside. But that was really, I would say, minimal across the complex. Remember, we have 79 locations across Catholic Charities, so that was it really came down to one location.
Right. Okay, I think we are probably out of time as I look at my wristwatch now, and we will. If we have your name or your email address or anything like that on a question that you ask, we will make every effort to get back to you to answer those questions later on. But in the meantime, what I want to do is thanks to all of who participated in this program, Bill Hanzlik, Darren Walsh, and Kate Chrisham, and those behind the scenes as well who helped for making it possible for you to join us this afternoon. We sincerely appreciate that. And if you'd like more information about what's going on at Catholic Charities, what we've been doing specifically to COVID-19, if you will go online to ccdenver.org, when that page comes up, you'll see a COVID-19. And if you click that, you can go in there and see the things that we might be needing, where volunteer opportunities are, and just all sorts of ways for you to become part of the Catholic Charities team at a much deeper and richer way if you choose to do that, and we certainly encourage you to do that. So I would say to you, have a great and wonderful evening. Please stay well and stay safe, and may God bless you all.